So when you're on stage, you're talking to 3 different kinds of people. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can connect all 3 different types of audiences. And so that way you can have a presentation that engages everyone and everyone walks away from feeling happy. Now, keep in mind, this is only for the introduction. I'm going to be posting more videos like this where I talk about speaking on stages and engaging all audiences. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kentor Sajak. I'm a keynote speaker. I've spoken with TEDx. I'm speaking in front of classrooms, in front of theaters. I've basically done it all on stage. And on top of that, I'm a communication coach. I teach people how to communicate one-to-many, especially on stages. So, to get into it, there are 3 different types of people. The first one is what I call the kinesthetic people. They're the ones that really like you to speak softly. They want to be there in a sentimental moment, in a quiet moment. Then you move up to audible. This is most TED Talk speakers. It's where you stay still, you give the information, your hands are here at all times, you're always here, you use minimal hand movement, and you do whatever feels comfortable to give the information necessary without being too dramatic. But then we go to the visual. Now, the visual is where I love to be. And I'm not necessarily a Tony Robbins of the world, and I don't plan to be. But what a visual speaker does is they are wide, they are big, they love to go around, take up space. And that's what a visual speaker is supposed to do. Or, sorry, let me rephrase that. That is what the visual audience wants the speaker to do. They want them to be big, to be exciting, to move on stage, move close to them, move back, show everything. Yes, I'm here, I'm alive, that kind of stuff. Add some grit, add some energy to it. Those are the 3 stages. And again, I love to be at the visual stage. But in order to connect with your entire audience, you need to be able to not have to do the visual talking. So I'm going to go through my TED Talk and I'm going to show you all exactly what I did to be able to have my TED Talk be emotional enough to where it made, I'd say, 10% of the audience cry. And during the rehearsal, I made 3 people cry during my TED Talk, the rehearsal of it. So let's go. With my TED Talk, I wanted to start off kinesthetic. A little bit of auditory, but mainly kinesthetic. This was because I was the opening speaker, and I knew the audience wouldn't be engaged enough, which, by the way, being an opening speaker is one of the hardest things to do. Even myself, I messed up a little bit during my TED Talk because honestly, it is that hard and that stressful because it is such an honor and a responsibility. That basically is the organizer saying that you are our best speaker. We want you to engage the audience for the rest of the time. And for me, I had a 6-minute speech. We had 3 hours of speeches. So with kinesthetic people, my first line was, so I gotta be honest. I spent around $300 on a pair of jeans a couple of months ago, and I'm still trying to figure out how that happened. That's kinesthetic. That is me starting off small. That is getting the people who, a lot of TED Talk listeners are kinesthetic and audible, but I also want to grab the visuals because that's, when you can do all 3, that's how the most viewed TED Talks are. They start off kinesthetic, then they go audible, then they go visual. So I wanted to bring in the kinesthetic people and the audible people first. And so with that tone of voice where I'm soft, I'm kind, I'm caring, the way you can do that is be a little bit more breathy with your voice. Add, push air out, or let air flow out of your lungs in order for this to work. And then be a little bit more, I tend to think a little bit more British when I do this, or a little bit more Scottish, I guess, but not with the accent, but in the way that I perceive my voice. And I raise my basically Adam's apple. I raise it just a touch to have this. Then what I did next was, my next line was, but a brand isn't just a story. a brand isn't just a product. A brand is a story. And whether or not each and every one of you, whether you realize it, each and every one of you has a brand. And that's because you all have a story. Now this is getting into the visual phase. But the way I did it was I kept my tone of voice just low enough to where it wasn't visual, it was audio. And that's because this transition at the beginning is the transition into the story, into the actual TED Talk. And that's where I want the audience to look at the most. But in order to get there, we need to connect the kinesthetic people and the audio people to the rest of the story, which is all visual. And so the way I did that is I showed that I'm okay with being big. I am okay with being on stage. And even if you're not, you need to be able to do that to look like you're comfortable on stage. Because in all reality, you're not going to be comfortable on stage. Even during my TED Talk, and I've done speeches before in front of dozens, hundreds of people. But I was nervous, so nervous. And you guys will see that in my behind the scenes of the TED Talk when I can release that, when I get all the footage and everything and I edit it all together. But then after that, I got into the story. Today, I want to tell you all Eric's story. Eric, who is now my best friend, wasn't sure I should share this. He thought, what if people judge me? But he also knew that if it could just help one person, then it would all be worth it. That's getting into the visual. If I go any further, I'm going to spoil the TED Talk, and I don't want to do that. But with the visuals, that's how it starts. It started off kinesthetic with me being really soft, with me being really low, kind of engaging with the audience one-on-one, kind of like how I'm doing here. I leaned into the audience. I seemed smaller. Of course, I was confident, or at least I looked confident, but I made it more caring. Then after that, I decided to open up a bit and say, this is what I know, and I want to give you the information before I give you the reasoning why, because I know how much personal branding is. Personal branding is one of the biggest things in the world. And then I start talking about Eric, who is my best friend, Eric, who has been there with me since day one. Well, I mean, not necessarily day one, but you guys will see, like, that's the idea that I'm going for. But that is how you hook an audience and how you engage your entire audience in order to pull them through the entire event. But let me know in the comments what you guys want to know, and I'll make a video on it, and I'll help you guys out as much as possible. But as for right now, that's how you can connect your entire audience from 3 separate levels of different types of audience members. That's what I use. That's what Eric uses. Eric Edems. He's not the guy that I talked about in the story, but Eric Edems is the guy who taught me this lesson of the 3 different stages. I'll leave a link to his full talk on it down in the description and comments below. But yeah, please let me know what you guys want to see next. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.